We are ready. Thanks, Dave. Go ahead.
All right, so let me give you kind of like a small preface. So that you remember, I told you that I was in Breakpoint, Singapore, 2024, and there was this contest of like, hey, get a phone if you do, I don't know, X amount of pull-ups in an hour or so. And then I saw this phone, which I've had heard from Joe McCann before, that he was like, oh, this is interesting. I might invest in it. Like, it piqued my interest, and I'm like, oh, how much is it? It's $99. And obviously, all the friends that I went from 10 a.m. were like, well, we should definitely get one, because the least thing that can happen is we're going to experiment with it, and we're going to try it out, because you know us from Colombia, if there's a phone, a smartphone for $99, it's going to be something that's pretty interesting. So guys, I'm very happy that we have you. Now we can do a formal introduction now that everybody's kind of like set in the mood. So Sam, Dave, give an introduction. Love to hear the story of K-pop. Gordo is a super fan of K-pop. He has, I'm just bullshitting Gordo, but it's interesting and super cool to have you guys. So tell us a little bit of you, the background. How did you guys got started, and how can us consumers in Latin America, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, get a $99 phone? Because this is pretty impressive.
Hey, first of all, hey, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. My name is Sam. I am first employee at Jambo. I wear a few different hats, but mainly lead most of the outward facing stuff like partnerships, everything you see on social media, etc. I'll let David do a self-introduction here as well, but he is our head of community, and he also works very closely with me to lead partnerships as well as quests and all of the fun stuff involved with onboarding new users into Web3. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, Sam. And where are you right now, guy? Because you don't have your camera on. Sam, you're in Asia, but Dave is where right now?
Yeah, so I'm in Bali right now, and David is actually in New York. Yeah, we actually met in New York 11 years ago. Go ahead, David.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I'm connecting. My Wi-Fi is a little bit bad right now, but you guys go ahead. Sorry about this.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so let's get started. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I invited Paul Gomez, and like I was mentioning before, Paul has the big advantage. Right now, he currently works in the autonomous division of Ford vehicles, but way in the day back before, he used to work at Motorola. So he really knows his way around phones, and like I've never seen a guy that in his hobby room has 50 or 30 phones. He has everything from BlackBerry, Motorola. And so I invited him because I wanted to have him ask you guys questions, how you guys are able to make such an affordable phone, because $99 against $1,200, $800 that you get from a Samsung, that you get from an LG, from a Huawei, is really a break-even. It's really a nice entry point, because you're basically giving people the possibility of having access to a bank by just opening an account. You're giving them the possibility to have a virtual card that can be loaded with blockchain. I mean, one big example is cash. You can load it up with USDC, and you have a credit card. Basically, you're allowing people to be in the financial system, and everything else that you have the possibility of being with a mobile phone, but you're doing it with $99. So I don't know, Paul, if you have questions regarding the technical aspect. How are you guys able to make such an affordable phone for the markets where we come from? Because that's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, first of all, thank you for speaking so highly of our product. Our first mission when Jambo actually first began, by the way, the word Jambo means hello in Swahili, which is one of the most widely spoken languages across Africa. So Jambo actually started targeting people in Africa, people who didn't have smartphones. 50% of the 1.4 billion people in Africa still without smartphones. However, is exponentially increasing, especially with 4G adoption as well. There's around 400 million plus people in Africa that are now on 4G. And if you look at all the problems associated with people in Africa that crypto could actually solve, such as some of the things you mentioned, like 57% of the continent is unbanked. They cannot do cross-border payments, no remittances, super high levels of inflation, tackling a lot of unemployment. And I feel like talent is very equally distributed, however, opportunity is not. And so just to answer your question on how we're doing it with the $99 phone, number one, unlike traditional smartphone brands, right, like hardware companies.
I want to,
yeah.
Sorry, I want to interrupt you because I remember the story of like one of the founders during Breakpoint. His parents are Chinese, but he lived for 10 or 15 years in Africa, and so it's pretty cool that you're connecting the Jambo from someone from Chinese origins. Why did the idea occur to him? Because he was living in Africa and he was originally from China. That's where the origin story started.
Yeah, so actually that's the best of both worlds. Thanks for asking. So the co-founders are Jambo, and they're actually third generation Africans from the Congo, Central Africa. So their great grandfather was one of the first Chinese people to actually go from China to Africa, set up a lot of shipping and trading routes. And so for them, you know, a little bit about them. Alice was one of the first people, or the first person from Congo, a country of over 100 million people, to go to Columbia, an Ivy League. And then James and I met in NYU 11 years ago as well. And so the reason I bring this up is they used to run a fund-to-fund to invest into a lot of, you know, projects tackling emerging markets as well in the Web3 space. And they wanted to kind of go from investor to operator and give back to where they're from, Africa. And so that's where all of our thesis started off with. We originally, before the phone kind of came into play, we were trying to be more like the WeChat of Africa, a super app that had many different functionalities to solve some of the things. But one of the biggest things that came up was, how do you onboard a user, right, from Africa that does not even have a smartphone? How do you get that person to enter into Web3? And so that's how the idea of the phone came to be, and hence Jambo was born. And so that's how we decided to do it. And I think just to touch upon,
I love those stories because it's not the stereotypical thing like, oh, someone goes to Stanford, writes a business plan, goes raises money in Silicon Valley, but it's more like, okay, somebody detects the pain and the opportunity of what is real happening in third world countries. I'm like, okay, this is the solution. And you were talking to fund of funds, but then you're like, you got to experience 100 million people is not a small market. It's a big experiment and opportunity to see where you can actually develop and create new ideas. And so one of the things that people discount very quickly when they start talking, for example, about blockchain and new technologies is that they say, well, it never works. But for example, one of the reasons why, and this actually caught a few of the Solana visitors in Breakpoint, knowing that there's an audience in Colombia or Argentina that is really like, okay, we get the technology. We're hardcore users of USDT, of Tron, because when you live in economies that have 10, 15, 20, 30% inflation, it's not an option. It's not optional to not use those new technologies. So I always like an idea that starts when someone had the opportunity to observe the problems at scale in a large market like Africa. So I think it's really cool. The origin story is always very important because it's a very good tell of why or not a good idea or an idea is going to be successful. So I just wanted to make that caveat because I think it's very important.
Yeah, I appreciate you. You know, I think same for me. My first year at Jambo, I spent it actually in Africa. I spent it across, you know, Kenya, South Africa, Botswana, Morocco, and a lot of the more, you know, English-speaking countries. And I think it was very, eye-opening to see that Africa is not what most people depict Africa in more of the Western countries, right? You look at more like safaris and all of the downsides. But when you're actually there, you realize how much talent is out there. 15 of the fastest growing cities in the world are all in Africa. And we saw like, hey, this is a region that could really benefit from not just Web3, but from also expanded well out of Africa into Southeast Asia, into Latin America. And since January of this year, since launching the Jambo phone, the first one, we have now sold over 570,000 units across 128 countries. And so we have actually smashed all previous records of Web3 phones sold and distributed. Yeah. And the phone you're looking here on screen is the Jambo phone 2. And Jambo phone 2 is Jambo phone 1 on steroids. All right. This is the most powerful $99 smartphone period on the planet. This is the world's most powerful $99
Sam, repeat
smartphone.
that.
And so
repeat that again. How much is that phone?
This is the world's
we have a little
powerful
just have
$99
to with patience
smartphone.
with it.
Yeah, no worries. This is the world's most powerful $99 smartphone, and it has 12 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, and it lasts over 12 hours of battery life, all for $99. And what's special about what we're doing is that it comes pre-installed with Jambo app and Jambo partnered applications. And so what this essentially does is we're not just the best phone hardware wise, but inside the Jambo app that comes pre-installed, it's super simple. It has just two things, Jambo Play and Jambo Wallet. And so Jambo Play, in a nutshell, it's a D-app store and questing platform. And so what this accomplishes is not only we've curated the best Web3 applications that have partnered with Jambo in one area, but now they offer up incentives in the form of quests. So for example, hey, go create this wallet, go conduct your first transaction, go share it on socials, go play this game. And instead of just, playing this game or discovering, and now you're incentivized to do so. And then we give Jambo Wallet, a multi-chain wallet, to store all of these earnings in exchange for your time. So I think one of our biggest thesis that we had in tackling emerging markets is they still have everything that people in developed nations have, time. They have 24 hours a day that refreshes every single day, and they can have essentially a job through just this one device. The most powerful one in its class, curated with the opportunities to be able to earn and discover all of the Web3 applications that could be beneficial in their lives to hopefully transform it for the better. Yeah.
So you said multi-chain. So basically every single chain, every single wallet, so you'll get an Ethereum wallet, you get a Bitcoin wallet, you get a Solana wallet, and every other derivative that there is out in the market, correct?
Exactly. And we're building out a new chain every 1 to 2 months. And so the whole goal here is, right, by the end of next year, we should be supporting all the major chains. We can support all of their top consumer-facing applications, whether that's a game, a wallet, an exchange, a SocialFi app, and they're the ones putting up rewards to get Jambo users who have the phone or the app to go in and check out what they're offering. And in exchange for their time, they're given tokens, rewards, USDT, and and we provide on and off ramps in certain regions.
Okay, and so the phone comes loaded with the possibility of being in the world of the blockchain, but it comes also with every other app that Android comes. So if you want to download WhatsApp, Telegram, your local bank, if you want to get access to YouTube, absolutely everything, you get the possibility for only $99, right?
Exactly. You can get everything a normal Android phone would be able to do and more.
All right.
So just to clarify, so the Jambo still being a single app in the phone that has an ecosystem around everything that you guys do, right?
Yeah, and we have also pre-installed select app partnered applications on the home screen as well. So what this kind of accomplishes is, for example, data is very expensive in emerging markets. So we make it as frictionless as possible to enter a certain game instead of having to download it even. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then how were you able to, drop down the price to 99? I'm guessing you guys didn't develop your own phone, some sort of white labeling or partnership with a
So we
manufacturer.
have our own
How
factory. We have our own factories, and the secret sauce is obviously that our phones are made in Shenzhen, the hardware capital of the world. And how we were able to source these factories in the beginning is that Alice and James's family happened to invest early into some of the major telecommunication phone providers companies, and so we were able to source the best factories in Shenzhen, and we've scaled them up. And I guess the reason why we can produce the most powerful $99 phone now, and it wasn't at the Jambo Phone 1, is that Jambo Phone 1, we sold 570,000. And so we've hit a scale, right? And because our Jambo business model is not just like a traditional phone company where they're like producing it for X and trying to just generate as much profit as possible and while competing against other phones, we can accept significantly less margins because we also have the software component to it, which is why
You're
we're
not
able
you're
to.
not capitalizing on just the margins from selling the handset, but the handset is just a medium to provide access to your
Yes, sir.
ecosystem, right? Your platform.
Yes, sir.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So right now,
Yeah. And our number
anyone
one
that
goal
does
is
the okay. So now anybody right now that gets a Jambo, they won't get the Jambo 1. Right now the focus is solely the Jambo 2, right?
No. So actually, if you look at the Jambo Phone 1, right? Here, I think the
You want
Wi-Fi
to share
is
the
breaking.
screen? Yeah, we're
Sure.
breaking a little bit. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah. And so I guess one thing to note here is Jambo Phone 1 was already above average for a 99. Now, I think most of the complaints you would see about the Jambo Phone 1 is usually from people from developed nations, right? That have been using the iPhone, that using $1,000 phones, right? And then they don't remember what a $99 phone was capable of. And so that's not to say, because our phone could run a lot of the AAA games out there. And so, I mean, I'm sorry that it has a slight lag compared to a 1K phone, but now we've also heard the feedback, and this is what we do at Jambo. We've now made it 12 gigs of RAM in this phone, 128 gigs of storage. And so we've made it significantly better and at the same price point.
That's great. That's great because it is. I agree with you. It's totally unfair to compare a 1K phone with a $100 phone. But the specs that I saw, they're competitive. I didn't know about the new one with the 12 gig, but definitely one of the biggest culprits of Android is RAM. So the more RAM you put in a device, the better it will function.
Yes, sir. Yes,
For,
sir.
for Android
Appreciate you.
devices.
Yeah.
So I actually have it here, my Jambo phone, which I bought at Breakpoint from you guys. So let's say, because I want to, Paul, and then you can ask the more technical questions. I want it to be practical. So if I am, let's say, a user in Medellin and I want to buy this phone, and I know it's $99. So you already told us that anybody that uses the code Jambo 10 a.m. Pro gets a discount, right?
Not a discount, but a priority shipping, right?
Okay, they get a priority to shipping, and so the only thing they need to do is just follow the link that would be on the description, and they can hit purchase. You have already delivered to countries like Colombia and to most of Latin America. So
yes.
If somebody buys this phone, which is $99 is like 400,000 pesos, 400,000 pesos, and so if someone wants to immediately start making money out of their phone because they're using the Jambo ecosystem, what would be like the first thing they would start doing?
Yeah, so I guess one thing special, the way we identify a Jambo phone user from an Android user that has the Jambo app, for example, is as soon as you purchase a Jambo phone, at the back of your box, there is an IMEI code, which is unique to every single phone in the world. And if you happen to throw the box away, no worries. There's still a way to find what your IMEI code is within your phone. Now, you would want to open your Jambo app, log in through one of the multiple ways to sign up, right? Whether that's connecting it to your Google account, Twitter account, etc. And then once you're in, you would want to connect your IMEI code to your Jambo app. Now, what this does is, number one, this makes you have 3x more multiplier for rewards compared to just an Android device with the Jambo app. Number two, you're also eligible for exclusive rewards that are coming your way. So I think one of the biggest things also that people have been saying is like, hey, Jambo Phone 1, you know, when I bought the Saga, there was bonk airdrops. There's already these type of airdrops. Now, I think what we're trying to do is a little bit different, right? We're not trying to be airdrop first. We're trying to provide a device to some people that may have never even had a smartphone first. Now, what you guys can see inside of the Jambo app is a lot of quests, a lot of actionable items you have to complete in order to claim the rewards. And so what we're doing is basically not just giving something out because you got the phone, but rather make sure you complete these actions to get these rewards. Now, will there be just regular drops of air? Let me just coin it that term, as James said it at Breakpoint. Coming to Jambo phone stacks, the simple answer is yes. There are over 70 plus partners that have tokens out within the Jambo ecosystem of partners. And so there's going to be a lot of great, crazy, rewarding campaigns coming to the people who already have the Jambo Phone 1, as well as the people who are going to be getting their Jambo Phone 2. I think that's pretty much what I can say here, but just stay tuned. There's a lot of rewards coming the way.
And for onboarding, will the users need to load any token specifically to start, or are they, since it's emerging markets, right? And you want to get them into the Web3 ecosystem, or does it come preloaded with anything so that they can start, learning and participating? Because everything takes a fee, right? There's always fees.
Yeah. I mean, within the Jambo app, once you sign up, connected your IMEI code, right? We have partners like Aptos, Petra Wallet. Go create the account, right? Share it on your social media. You can earn a few APT, right? So that's already your first few tokens you can come in. We have quests up with Solana, with Tether, right? And you have to watch the video, learn about it. You can earn Jambo points, which will, translate into, what it usually, points mean in the tokenomics.
It's like you used to earn or play to earn type of concept. The more you interact with it, the more you earn, and then the quests, I guess, take you through the different platforms. I just downloaded it on my regular Android. It's pretty good.
Yeah. And one thing I just kind of wanted to touch up on, right, is when you're launching a device like a phone, I think this is not just for a phone, or this is just in Web3 in general, right? If you have a great game that you have launched, right, I think many people in Web2, when they play a game, they're not going into a game to actually make money. They're going into the game because the game is great. The game is fun. The game is addictive, right? Now, if that game also gives you incentives to be able to earn, amazing, right? So what we have done with our phones is brought it back to business 101. That's number one, improve it. That's why this Jambo Phone 2 is very special. We're giving our users a very great product first and foremost, right? So I don't want to, focus so heavily on like, hey, buy this phone to get the rewards. What does that really help, right? It doesn't really help anyone. And they're just going to get the token, sell it. They made a few bucks. They're gone. We're giving a very powerful device they can use for years to come. We've curated the best applications to offer rewards in exchange for your time, right? To be educated in the Web3 space, to use the tech for good. And I think what we're missing here is if you look at most of the projects out there right now that are building in this space, they're all focused on the wrong things. we're focused on helping people using the tech. And if you can use tech to help people, we can completely flip the narrative of Web3 to people even outside of Web3. Yeah.
No, that's definitely very impressive, and again, the price point just makes it so much more accessible. I mean, it's I'm not gonna say it's a no brainer, but when you think of like the minimum wage in different parts of the world, I'm trying to make it in dollars, but in Colombia it would be Darío, would it be like $500 to $600 the minimum wage in Colombia? I know it's still like 12-15% of your salary. But dude, if you want to buy an iPhone or a high-end Samsung, that's 2 months of salary. That's a hefty price to pay. But
And
that
I
also
don't
means
think in Colombia you can get a phone that cheap. Dario, do you remember?
well,
Like, are there
well,
phones that cheap?
yeah, sorry, yeah, you got to load the import duties and everything else, so it's going to be like $1,800, and it's just going to be it's too difficult and it's too expensive. And so basically because most people think, well, they don't have access to the internet. Okay, that's important, but not having access to the internet means that, well, you can watch a video where you are going to be learning. You can't have access to a bank because you don't have a credit card. You don't have one of the QR codes. Like, for example, Colombia the central bank came up with this new thing that's called Breve, which is kind of like pigs in Brazil. And so you need a QR code. How the hell are you going to scan a QR code without a phone? You need a camera because if not, you don't have access to the financial system, and you're just going to be so. The thing that I like about this is that it doesn't ostracize a segment of the population, because you just gave them an access point. And to me, that is very significant and very relevant, because you're just putting the new technology in at the fingertips of different demographics, and I think that's quite relevant, because when most people come and think about new technology, they always think it's the fancy thing that's going to make the technology explode, but it's really the masses and and certain levels of population that make it really important. So that's pretty impressive, and that you created this whole ecosystem, because it would allow to different technologies to scale. I mean, uh, when you see people paying, for example, I recently shared with my group like this CAST credit card that you can upload with USDC or USDT. And then when you see people using credit cards that don't have to go through the traditional bank, and they just validate them with their ID or their passport, and that's it, and they don't have to do the paper stamping of the bank, which is slow and tedious. But then they have access to everything. They have access to a Netflix. They have access to HBO Max. They have access to whatever gimmick service that is available on the internet, because they just had this advice. It just helps those things scale. I don't know if Dario, if you have any observations, or Paul, you that have been developing phones for a long period of time. I'm gonna give this one to you so that you can break it down and do your own analysis one time in Miami in a few weeks. But I like what I'm seeing, because it just gives a multitude of people access.
I think
Yeah.
it's the what you guys are doing is great, because first you're giving access on the hardware side, right? People, very low cost, so people can actually get a smartphone, right? People that can afford one. And then second, you're doing that merge into introducing people into Web3, from gaming to everything, knowledge and the different ecosystems. I think it's great. I'm using the app right now on my phone.
Appreciate it.
And
Appreciate it. Yeah. And
it's very responsive. It's very great.
I think thank you. Yeah, and I think one thing that I think most people don't see is, because a lot of people from emerging markets and it's their first time getting a phone, right? The whole concept here is, if we get these communities to start buying more of these $99 devices, why even need to go into Web 2? There could be whole countries and whole regions that could completely just leapfrog from holding cash from Web 1 and go straight into Web 3. I think one of the biggest things, right? Because I came from a world of Web 2. I still need my bank account to do XYZ. But for those people that are, like a few decades behind us, right? They're still in Web 1. Why do they need to go to Web 2? Why do they need to go through Web 2 at all? Yeah.
They can skip right way, all the way through Web 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things, right, onboarding, like if you guys go to a lot of these conferences, a lot of the topic that comes up is how to onboard the next billion into Web3. And a lot of people are trying to kind of convert people from Web2 to Web3. But I think there's over 1 billion people, right, across the 3 main emerging market regions that we're targeting, Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, that don't even have a smartphone, meaning they're all Web 1, essentially. They're all Web 1. And so if we can just get these guys to get a phone, a $99 phone with all of these Web3 applications pre-installed, they could effectively leapfrog to Web3. Their local businesses will have no choice but to start accepting Web3 payments, right? And I think that's when true adoption could occur in places that, like I said, need crypto, not want crypto. Yeah.
And one question, I guess I remember usually when you activate a phone in different countries, right? Some carriers will
Right.
block a manufacturer if it's not somehow, like done some paperwork with the different carriers. Have you guys taken care of that so that if anybody in Colombia, for example, buys your phone and then goes and tries to activate it in a local carrier, that they won't get blocked because of any FCC, any certifications you might have to show,
so
right?
I think it varies by country, right? For example, in Indonesia, where I'm currently at right now, any new device that comes in after a few months, they will get blocked, right? And so what they have to do is they actually have to just go and register their device at a certain location, and then it'll be free to use, right? And I think this is an issue that Jambo itself is having. I would have to check with Colombia itself with my team. I actually am not the person handling Colombia at the moment, but would be happy to check. But as far as I'm concerned, have not had a single complaint from a user from Colombia yet. Yeah.
All right, great. And then as far as the I guess the delivery, when somebody orders the phones directly from you, then it just goes through regular shipping process and then to their house, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we have 2 different methods. One is we work with a lot of local distributors that handles each region, and the second way is you can just order it directly from jambophone.xyz. We've also partnered up with, for example, by country. For example, Vietnam, Coin98. We partnered up with Coin98 to distribute phones. We've also partnered up with YGG in the Philippines, right? We've done multiple road shows as well. And so we have a lot of localized partners as well. And yeah, that's how we've actually been getting all these phones into people's hands too. Yeah.
Okay, and it's a 4G, I guess it's an LTE only phone, right? Or is it
Yeah, 4G at the
backward
moment.
3G, 2G?
Yeah. It supports up to 4G at the moment. With more features to come. Where actually just some alpha I could drop here is we're thinking about, right? Because right now this is a $99 phone with mid-tier specs. We're thinking, what if we had a mid-tier phone with high-tier specs as well, right? So there people who could get something on that. We're also thinking about introducing Jambo Pay, right, which could work as our own off-ramp, but obviously that is much easier said than done. But it is in the process. And we are working with a lot of localized partners to bring more off-ramps availability to each region. Yeah.
That is great.
I think I think this is super cool, Paul. And again, I see this as an opportunity for people not having access. It's like Sam mentioned. It's like you don't have to be Web 2. You can jump all the way to Web 3. Have access to a bank. Have access to education. Have access to a whole financial system in different countries. And I think that's the real opportunity by making it accessible. And I know their business model is developing the whole Jambo ecosystem. But hey, we've discussed this so many times in our podcast. A year and a half, or maybe I think it was 2022, we were making $200, $300 out of our phones using the Step N. who knows what new app is going to come up. But you have the possibility of, I mean, you're not using the full of the hard drive. Maybe you can use shadow drive, or maybe you can use a little bit of the CPU that is running there to just be part of, like, I don't know, of a certain grid. But it just opens up the opportunity, and the entry just makes it so much more accessible. And it's not this cumbersome deal where the cell phone operator has you on the hook for 12 months and you're just constantly paying. No, $99. You're like, okay, I'll figure out how to pay it. It's 15% of my salary, but it's an opportunity. So, Sam, Dave, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. So we're going to write the code Jambo 10 a.m. Pro. We're gonna link to the URLs that people just can go there and pay. And if you don't mind sharing it here, I mean, I imagine that it will automatically translate to Spanish, so people don't have any troubles or issues there. But I don't know if you have any like last closing thoughts or things that you want to share with the team, or Dario, you have any additional questions or that you're curious, because I think it's pretty impressive. I mean, I think maybe in Token 2049, I saw it's like a wallet, but this is just very practical. But because again, it gives you the possibility of having a blockchain wallet, which is, I mean, we already know all the advantages of it, but it's cool, man. So nice.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to kind of end with sharing some stuff that's coming up. We have our very first flagship store actually opening up in Brazil, in Sao Paulo.
Oh yeah.
So
nice.
this flagship store is going to be open around mid to late November next month. And what it's going to feature is not just Jambo, but also Jambo's partners. And so it's, instead of just coming in and having, like an Apple style where you just can buy a phone and try a phone, but we'll also have space where, people can figure out what is Matrix Fire, what does this game do? There'll be some posters, banners, some merch, possibly some brochures to learn about it, right? And we'll have a little section for each one of our partners. It'll be more like a cafe style. You could buy some coffee with crypto. You can network there. You could buy a phone. You could check out some of our partners. So
actually, that's very cool that you mentioned it, because I wonder if there are any other partners that want to do agreements with you guys. So I don't know if you know it, but the largest new bank in Latin America happens to be created by a guy that was born and raised in Medellin, New Bank, and it's the fastest growing bank. I think its market cap right now is like $30 billion. And for them, Dario, if they're like already loaded on a phone like this, like, well, you're just given the opportunity. Sometimes banks think that the opportunity, or like the new bank, the new banks, the opportunity is just like doing a deal with an influencer. But if you're there, it's kind of like a preloaded browser on your phone. So okay, I get a bank there just by doing that. That would be cool. So
yeah,
might be worth the connect.
Yeah, we'd love to get connected. I mean, anybody who is trying to help folks that that could really benefit from all of this tech, we're with that mission as well. So we'd love that introduction. But hey, look, listen, it was an honor to be on here. Thank you so much for you guys' time. Thank you so much for all of your compliments. The questions got me thinking a little bit deeper on how we could even improve Jambo itself. So this was a very productive call. So thank you so much.
All right, Sam, enjoy Bali. Too bad that your connection is bad. And Dario, any last question?
No, I want to buy my Jambo phone quickly, right now, with the TM code.
Yes, sir.
That's true.
Sir.
So
JamboPhone.xyz.
and that's true. So how long do people have to wait for the phone now? I guess we have the code, right, that expedites it. But with and without the code, what's the time difference?
Well, I mean, that was, if you're, I guess I'll have to check depending on where the customer is purchasing the phone from. But if you have the priority shipping, you will get it before anyone else in your region. The Jambo Phone 2s will begin shipping mid-November as well, right around the time we're opening up the flagship
I'm
store.
waiting.
So if you have, yeah,
Christmas presents.
yeah.
All right, Sam. All good, man. Have a good one. Enjoy Bali.
Appreciate y'all. Take care. Bye bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye bye.